morning, all. Before we get started here, I'd just like to say one thing. Susie Burkamp and I were having a little conversation earlier. We have extremely fond memories of the Grand Canyon pioneers, a lot smaller than this organization is today. As much as we have these fond memories of the Grand Canyon pioneers, we are just absolutely thrilled to see this many people here at the Canyon today, celebrating the history of the Grand Canyon. Thank you for coming. We're going to talk a little bit about railroads today, and Richard and I were talking about one of the projects that he's working with, and he was wondering about railroad speed and track speed, and we're going to be moving at track speed today because we have a lot of railroads to cover. Believe it or not, all of these railroads in one way or another brought people here to see the Grand Canyon. We're going back to 1882. That's where the other Richard got me to change it. So from 118 to 137. So, but we're talking about the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad, the Santa Fe Pacific Railroad, the Santa Fe and Grand Canyon Railroad. Most people don't even know that existed. Yeah, just speak of the Santa Fe Railway, it was the railroad to start with, the original Grand Canyon Railway, the Union Pacific Railway, and the Grand Canyon Railway as it exists today. We're also going to look at the American Orient Express, and we'll take a little bit of a look at the Grand Canyon Light Rail proposed project that we had going here at the Grand Canyon, which actually did have something on rails for a bit, but it didn't quite make it. I love this statement. Oops, can't even stand up this morning. When I first heard of the Santa Fe trains running to the edge of the Grand Canyon of Arizona, I was troubled with the thoughts of the disenchantment likely to follow. But last winter, when I saw those trains crawling along through the pines of the Coconini Forest and close up to the brink of the chasm of Bright Angel, I was glad to discover that in the presence of such stupendous scenery, they are nothing. Locomotives and trains are mere beetles and caterpillars. And the noise that they make is little disturbing as the hooting of an owl in the lonely woods. John Muir, when he came up here in 1902. And I've used this to good, when we were putting together the Grand Canyon Railway, I used this to good advantage. We had a lot of folks that were not too enthralled with the idea of a locomotive coming up here to the Grand Canyon. And of all the activists that we were discussing with, I'd start out our meetings with this, and they shut up. This was their hero. But we're going to take a look at the various means of the railroads, and we are going to move to track speed. And track speed is normally the speed limit of a section of track, but loosely described as the fastest speed you can move at without coming off the rails. So let's get on with it. I want you to, oops, I missed that shot there. Come on back. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got it. All right. Remember this drop Chicago in here. These are ads from the Santa Fe Railway, 1901 in this case, and this one a little bit later, about 1904. But then stand on the rim and hunt for them with a field glass. It is the greatest scenic wonder in the world, a wonderful panorama, 1,000 square miles in extent. Now this is Santa Fe advertising, but look at the next paragraph. Reach from Williams, Arizona, by the Santa Fe and Grand Canyon Railway with a stage of only 10 miles. That was something that they didn't really realize that they were in for when they started out. But this was really advertising for the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad. It was part and parcel of the Santa Fe company. But all the advertising came out of Santa Fe. And this one, Nick will probably like this one most of all. President Roosevelt says the Grand Canyon of Arizona is one great sight every American should see. They use good statements in history whenever they could for their advertising, especially in the early years. So, Atlantic and Pacific Railroad Company was started by the Santa Fe to come on over from Albuquerque on over into California. And when the Atlantic and Pacific Railroad got into being here, it got into northern Arizona about 1882. As they traveled across here, this is one of the 6 maps that we have down at the Arizona State Railroad Museum archives. This is one of the original maps of the Atlantic and Pacific. This is the case showing from Williams on over to Peach Spring. There was only one spring there, I guess, in those days. All the maps later on changed in 1898 to, I guess they found 2 more springs, but it's now Peach Springs. Yeah, in 1882 they got this bridge built across Canyon Diablo. This is on a postcard, Fred Harvey postcard. But the people that were coming to the canyon, they would either stop off at Winslow, Flagstaff, Williams, Ash Fork, or Peach Springs, and then they would make their way down to the canyon, Thank you.
You're welcome.
And we mentioned before the Santa Fe and Grand Canyon Railroad. This was put in here from Williams. It was coming up to Anita, which is about milepost 45 on what is the Grand Canyon line today. And but they didn't own any of their equipment. I mentioned the Santa Fe Pacific Railroad. If you look at all the designations on all the cars and the locomotive, the Santa Fe Pacific equipment, they leased it. This was a mining company. They wanted to mine actual copper or something like that, where today the Grand Canyon Railway is mining the tourist dollar. With this, they stopped here, and people transferred to the Grand Canyon, and on the stagecoach, they said it was 10 miles. I got news for them, it was a little bit longer than that. And this little depot that you see there now is still there in town. It's now the visitor center. And in 1908, they built the Fray Marcos and the depot there. We have some assistance. All right, and on September 17th, 1901, the Grand Canyon Railway at that time, which was part and parcel of the Santa Fe, made its way to the Grand Canyon. They made it there at night, and this photograph was taken the next morning by Emery Kolb, and contrary to popular belief, I am not in that photograph. Next please. And this is what the Fray Marcos Hotel and Depot looks like today. And if you were leaving there today, it still looks that way. So, and on this end, 1910, we had the new depot here at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. Notice the spelling of the sign up there, the copper sign. That changed pretty shortly thereafter to the way you see it now with a Y, NY. And this is what Williams was looking like in the 50s. Even had a roundhouse down here. I lost my pointer. There we go. Yeah, I got that one. Okay, down here we had a roundhouse. This serviced the Grand Canyon. This was primarily its job. It was to service the locomotives that were operating the train from Williams here and on up to the Grand Canyon. All right. And over the years, we saw an awful lot of things like this here at the Grand Canyon. And you notice here a lot of water cars. There was a flume track over there. They just dumped the water into it and went into the cisterns here at the South Rim. So the railroad did a lot of things besides bringing tourists here. It brought water long before that we had good sources of water from the other side of the canyon. And in Williams, they saw a lot of the good trains going through town quite frequently. The 5 different trains daily, each direction. And they brought people in and either dropped them there at Williams or transportation to the canyon on one of the trains going up from there. Or they brought people in on cars and set the cars out, and they were attached to the train. And in later years, then we started seeing nice locomotives like this one, bringing in specials. And the advertising continued with Santa Fe, with their book on tightening the chasms. And the advertising continued. You can see how the world was made, visit the Grand Canyon. And Wayne would like this one. Deep down in the earth, a mile or more, you see past strata of every known possible age, geologic age. All right, Wayne. Even the railroad knew about geology. And later years, it got to be a little bit more colorful. And the Fred Harvey Company got into things. They started advertising. They came into the canyon also at the same time the railroad did in 2001, excuse me, 1901. I'm losing my centuries here. But they had meal service on board the trains, and of course, they wouldn't miss a chance to also advertise the Grand Canyon. Harvey girls came in with the railroads. One of the things I like about this photograph here, this is here at the south rim of the Grand Canyon. This young lady happened to marry one of the future superintendents here at the park by the name of Jack Davis. So the Harvey girls contributed a lot of different ways here. Now, an awful lot of folks know this lady. She appears in both of these photographs here. I spoke to her on Monday. Anybody got any guesses? Who? How about Mary Hoover? It's her in Hutchinson, Kansas. See her here at the south rim of the canyon. She is a little bit under the weather these days. She's in assisted living, but she did ask me to say hello to everyone. Hello. Now, let's go over to the other side of the canyon, up on the north rim. It's a railroad most people don't hear of when they're talking about railroads here at the south rim. All they can think of is either the Santa Fe or the Grand Canyon Railway. But the Union Pacific did a pretty good business, but they were sort of Johnny-come-lately on this thing. But they put out advertising just like the Santa Fe did. Come on. And they put out postcards just like Fred Harvey did. Does this look familiar? Like you might have seen this somewhere before from like 1901, but it just happened to be on the other side of the canyon. They did a lot of copying, it seemed like. And if you look up there, remember I told you, remember Chicago? You could easily lose a great city in this chasm. They went all the way back to the 1901 ad to sort of duplicate it. But they were serving not only the north rim of the canyon, but Zion and Bryce, and they got people out there in the old days because they did not actually have tracks coming into those parts or the canyon. They had to motorize them all the way in. In the early days, it looked sort of like this at Zion. It looked like this at the Grand Canyon in this postcard. And this would have been Santa Fe, but they had motor cars here also. But at Cedar City, where the Union Pacific put in at, take a look at all these things. Look at all those buses. This is just for one train load of people. All these cars. These would be for the special people, I guess. And they would fill these buses. They would be going to, some of them would go to Grand Canyon for the starters, and then some of them would be going to Bryce, some of them would be going to Zion. Then they'd all be switching places. This is what it looked like at Grand Canyon in later years. And you know what they're doing there? Sing away. You got it, sing away. That was one of the things that they started up there that we never really grasped down here in the South Rim. I love this painting. My dog is in it. Craig Thorpe did this for a book cover, and I have the original at home. And he did this for my some of my photographs. But Craig's really a great railroad artist, and he did this to celebrate the first trains for the Grand Canyon here. And I promised you a look at the American Orient Express. You can see it here. The Grand Canyon, did it again. Grand Canyon train is in the hole here, and leading out is the American Orient Express. It's going to the canyon empty. This is because all those people on the Orient Express, and this is one of the reasons that it was short-lived, most of the time these people paid an enormous amount of money to ride this train, and they spent most of the time going to the parks on buses. So it went out of business in 2008. But the buses would catch up, would bring the people to the canyon, the train would meet them up there, and then they would come back down south on this Grand Canyon line. This is what the front end would look like. Some of you might wonder why the backcountry office looks like a train station. Any ideas why? Any ideas why the visitor center looks something like a place where trains would be coming into? Well, back in 1997, the Secretary of the Interior Babbitt and the Superintendent Rob Arnberger got a bunch of people here together and brought them in to view this. This was the proposed light rail. And it actually ran people around while everybody was talking about this, and gave people rides around the yard. So the light rail actually did come to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. And this is what Craig Thorpe again proposed for the light rail system to be. Well, it existed for about 3 years in the works. In 2000, they actually opened up the visitor center, had the grand opening for it. Then the politicians got involved in it and screwed the whole thing up. So it all went away. But today's Grand Canyon Railway is still alive and well. And if you were down in the yards yesterday like I was, in the middle of a snowstorm, that train made it in yesterday. This is what they're running today is the newer locomotives. This is 4960, the best of the line, and number 29, which you saw on that painting, are still running on special days. And you see them like this, lined up down there, and I've got photographs from yesterday in a snowstorm, so it would have been really nice to add into this thing, but couldn't quite do it. And I thought I would be running out of time, so I didn't include one other thing. Amtrak. They bring people here today, but they drop them off in Flagstaff. They used to drop them off in Williams. And so they've been part and parcel of this also. So we've actually have all 137 years and going now. Amtrak will continue, Grand Canyon Railway will continue for the foreseeable future. So we have got railroads to the south rim of the canyon, folks, for history. Thank you.